My husband, 38M, doesn't think I, 39F, love him. For reference, let's call my husband Jack and my daughter Lily. Jack and I've been married for about 10 years, dated for 5, and have a 4-year-old. Overall we've had an absolutely wonderful relationship. Sure, occasionally we hit a rocky spot, but we always recovered stronger than ever. Most of our friends look at us as the ideal couple too. I've never doubted that he loves me and I've tried my best to reciprocate it. Even when he wasn't home often during our first 5 years of marriage, he came back home after that since he got a promotion. We have great communication and I already am planning on how to approach this with him, but a second opinion would be nice just in case someone else already dealt with something similar. Yesterday he was doing some very acrobatic exercise in our backyard. He does this every day even when he's almost delirious from fever, which was hilarious to see. I joked that he'd leave me to become a monk. He just froze for a second and responded, "Maybe, after Lily grows up." Sure, this could just be playful ribbing, but I had a bad feeling in my gut and kept poking at him. He almost fell down, which is very odd since he has excellent balance, made me leave so he could focus on his stuff. That especially made the feeling even worse. The rest of the conversation happened at dinner. The gist of what he said is something like, "The signs are all there." He mentioned that we haven't been as romantic or intimate as of recent. He even said something about less attraction on my end, which isn't true. Then mentioned weeks of silence. I don't remember this happening at all. Frequent absence. I haven't been going out much except with my friends for dinner dates. Which isn't often, just 4 times a week for now. Something about initiation. The only one that somewhat made sense was how I was cutting couple time for friend time or game time, which doesn't happen all that often. I can only count 2 or 3 times last week where I did that, and we still had an hour or so out of planned 3 or 4 to spend together, so he shouldn't have an issue. What he had next honestly broke my heart and I almost started crying right there. "I don't think you love me as much as I do you, but that's fine. We'll raise our kid, grow old and exist till we die. I already have a few hobbies that make me happy. I can't make you responsible for all my happiness, that would be unfair." And he said that with the most deadpan expression ever, like we were talking about the weather or how our day went. I tried to make him understand that this hurt me, but it didn't seem to land at all. He just kept staring at me blank-faced and I honestly felt terrified. Afterwards we slept in the same bed after he put Lily to sleep and cuddled like normal, which was so jarring to me. I've put a lot of work into keeping us together, so to hear this from him has hurt me deeply. It's even worse because what he described sounds exactly like his parents. They're 2 old bitter people who stayed together to raise him and still stay together for God knows why. I've never seen them be loving towards one another, and only once towards him. He was always very particular about that stuff and said he never wants to have something like that. A few years ago he said that he was so glad we weren't like that and that he was so lucky to have someone who actually loves him and won't spontaneously stop because folded clothes wrong. Which made me fall in love all over again to know how much I meant to him. And then there's all that stuff he said, and I honestly can't remember something like not talking to him or silence. But I remember how his mother used to forget things. Like she'd do something wrong, get that wrong thing pointed out and then forget it ever happened. One time she was saying something about how my kind of people are less likely to succeed in business and should become a housewife. Which is weird because she's a lawyer and he certainly hasn't said anything like that and is very proud of my passive income stuff. My husband called her out on it stone-faced like yesterday and defended me. I didn't like that he said that I made more than him at the time cause I was afraid his mom would say something, but she backed down after that. She forgot about that incident a day later. Couldn't recall that lunch or what we did or anything sound that 1-hour period. He didn't want to subject me to that, but I insisted since family is pretty important to me, so we went back a few times. This same thing has happened at least 2 times, the target switching to him. I'm proud of him for standing up to her and she can't remember any of it. Eventually I got a begrudging approval from her. His dad didn't care too much and was, "Whatever makes you happy," from the start, which was nice. I'm crying my eyes out at a friend's house. I wanted to take Lily with me this morning, but she was in the middle of some class with Jack helping her do some activity the teacher gave them, so I just went on my own. I feel so heartbroken right now and I don't know what could have happened to make him think this way. I've been having a great few years since he's been home the last 5 or so years and lightened the load on taking care of Lily. What happened? Does anybody have experience dealing with something like this? This is a complete breach of my trust and I'm hurting so much from what he said. Any advice is helpful. I plan on returning at lunch and dinner for Lily's sake, but I'll try to talk to him after I've settled for a day. TL. Dr. Husband of 10 years doesn't think I love him anymore and we have a 4-year-old. Has anyone dealt with this before and how did you deal with it? Make more time for him, you ditch him for your friends a lot. No wonder he feels unloved. Canceling plans for friends 2-3 times in a week is very frequent. You spend 4 nights a week out with your friends instead of spending time with your husband and you wonder why he doesn't feel loved. How would you feel if he spent 4 nights a week out with his friends instead of spending time with you? Why are they more important than your husband? You really spend 4 days a week with your friends and you wonder why he's detached? I can't believe you still argue in your comments after you said you spend so much time with those friends. Expose how your husband suffer from all the situation and you keep thinking spending 3 times a week with them rather with your own family is normal? Don't you get that you are losing what is the more important than the friends out, your family? For God's sake, fight for your family rather those people who obviously have no respect for your husband. He feels unloved but you've turned it around so it's all about you and how he's breached your trust. And then you wanted to take his daughter away from him this morning. 27F. Don't want to be my grandma's, 75F. New, golden child. How can I communicate this to her? In short, my grandma is a cunt. She is snooping, judgmental, stubborn, narcissistic, and controlling. My grandma has 3 grandchildren and has basically disowned 2 out of the 3 so far. My sibling is not her biological grandchild so she never considered them as such. When my sibling was getting married, my grandma announced that she wouldn't be attending their wedding because my sibling didn't call her enough. My sibling has wanted nothing to do with her ever since. My cousin, Lee 26F, was the golden child for the majority of her life. I think it might have something to do with my cousin's mom allowing my grandma to completely control her and her daughter's lives while my parents pushed back hard on that. My grandma had significant other many photos of Lee up around her house while having almost none of the rest of the family. My grandma would pay for Lee to go on vacations every year and she always got way more presents during the holidays. My grandma would talk to Lee and her mom weekly while my family maybe heard from her on designated holidays. My grandma had a very obvious favorite and I was able to notice it when I was like 8 lol. This wasn't really a bad thing because every time I would visit her, she was just unpleasant to be around. She would try to pry information out of and if I said or did anything wrong she'd tattle on me to my parents or just punish me herself. This continued into my early adulthood. I started getting full arm sleeves when I was 19 and she stopped giving me the small amount of money and birthday cards because she didn't want me to spend it on tattoos. Plus she would just always tell me how trashy and dumb they are and assumed I was some kind of masochist. When Lee was in college, my grandma was paying for her to live in an apartment near campus and was also giving her a monthly stipend to live off of. At some point Lee moved in her long-term boyfriend into the apartment without telling anyone. My grandma eventually found out and completely blew her gasket. My grandma was pissed that she was helping fund Lee's boyfriend's living expenses and because Lee was having premarital sex lol. My grandma threatened her lawyers on Lee and constantly berated her. She sent so many nasty emails to her. Lee got tired of it and blocked our grandma everywhere and no longer communicates with her. My family tried to get my grandma to apologize to Lee, but she still refuses to years later. Recently I noticed my grandma has been trying to be more involved with my life. She is texting me and inviting out to dinner every month. My whole life I would only see her twice a year max. When I visit her at the nursing home, she parades me around to all her friends and introduces me as the smart one of the family. We literally have a nurse, lawyer, and teacher in our family, so why am I the smart one? I graduated university last year with a STEM degree and she gave me a large chunk of money as a gift. I kind of didn't want to accept it because I think she will use it in the future as emotional leverage to get me to do what she wants. She hasn't done this yet. I got a paid internship my last year of college. My grandma found out how much I was making and belittled Lee because I was making more money as an intern than she was as a teacher. I recently got a new job and my grandma has just texted me asking me to come over for dinner and give her details. I don't want to give any details. I don't want her involved in my life. I feel like I'm the new golden child after being a shitty grandma to me my whole life. How can I explain that I don't want to hang out or be close with her? I was honestly thinking of just blocking her and being done with it. I don't know why my parents still feel like they have to invite her to things when the whole family dislikes her. You don't communicate that to her directly. Live your life. She will find an offense somewhere and cut herself out. Take the money and run. Congratulations on your degree and new job. You're 27. You're the one deciding to spend time with someone you don't like. I would take the money on account of all the missed presents and vacations growing up. I'd alert your parents and cut her off. Stay away from her. You saw what happened with your cousin. She accepted your GMA's help and that gave your GMA permission, in her mind, to determine what she did with her life and to publicly shame her when she stepped a toe out of line. Just tell her to fuck off? My boyfriend, 28M, acts like a teenager and I, 27F, am sick of being his unwilling mother. Me, F27, and boyfriend, 28, have been together for 4 years. The first 4 months started off perfectly, everything I wanted in a partner: fun, adventurous, attentive etc. Then I moved states he decided to follow. He fell into a bad state of mind because he left his daughter, 4 years, to move states, and it was also peak pandemic. And he was awful to me, not physically abusive, but would punch holes in walls, made me cry almost daily. Didn't do anything but play video games on the couch. Would fall asleep on the couch and wake up and do it again. Would use his anger to intimidate me to get what he wanted. I let it slide because of what he was going through. It feels like the person I knew at the beginning of the relationship doesn't even exist anymore, and he was just pretending to be everything I wanted. It's been a few years from that, although still uses his anger to intimidate me. I believe that strategy was used against his narcissistic mother and he's brought it over into the relationship. He doesn't pull his weight around the house. Only clean the kitchen about twice a week and only works 12 hours a week due to an injury. He plays videos games at least 6 hours a day, and if he's not playing he's watching streams of the game, addicted to say the least. I've asked him to do a food delivery app jobs just to bring in some extra income because we're struggling. I work 2 jobs and have studies on the side, so I can't do anything extra. He keeps saying he will, but it's been a year and he still hasn't started. Oh, and owes me over $10K. I've read a few relationship books to try to fix this, but it's hard when I'm the only one who seems to care. I've tried to use cleaning charts, lists, calendars and asked verbally to help around the house, and he still puts in the bare minimum. I've told him clearly what I need in the best gentle parent way I could, and all I get is empty promises, and I always give the benefit of the doubt, but again nothing. I tried breaking up with him, but he begged and pleaded for another chance, so I gave it to him and nothing's really changed. The only things he'll do is if I ask him to. We never go on dates unless I plan and organize them. I've started to recoil at his touch and don't want to kiss him anymore. I don't want him to touch me anymore. I view him as a child I have to take care of now. I know I need to leave, but our lives are so intertwined. He'll take my dog, which is in his name, so is technically his, although he does nothing for him. And wouldn't even know how to care for him properly. He wouldn't be able to afford to get his own place, and I would be able to afford to live alone. So even if we broke up, we would still have to live together for a time. I believe that's what's holding me back from just getting it over with, is that I would still have to deal with his sulking ass around the house and still be cleaning up after him. I still do love him, but maybe not romantically anymore. Sorry if the post is all over the place, it's my first time posting and my head's all over the place as well. Figured this was cheaper than talking to a therapist and couldn't find a post that was similar to my situation. Thanks for reading, and if you've got any feedback. Should I just kick him into the spare room now and get it over with? Leave. Leave and never turn back. It sounds like it's been clear for years that this person and this relationship suck, and you've just been sitting around hoping it'll change. Sorry, you don't just get to pick someone and then get an automatic guarantee they're the right partner for you. You have to actually pay attention and make decisions. Do you rent or own your home? Is he on the lease deed? Whatever the situation is, there is a route to not being stuck with him forever. But it's going to take time, and every day you put off starting the clock is another day until you're free of him. The first 4 months were good, so I've been waiting 3 years and 8 months for it to get better again. Jesus Christ. Kick him out. He wouldn't be able to afford to get his own place, and I would be able to afford to live alone. And so, you would be broken up. Surely he has someone he could go to? He's mistreating you and practically asking you to kick him out, but betting you'll be too weak to do it. Get the dog safely away from him too. Husband, 21M, dumped me, 21F, like a piece of trash for a girl he met 2 weeks ago. I, 21F, been with him, 21M, for almost 4 years now. He was really the love of my life. We would do everything together, and he would always be there. Once we had our son, things started to change. He wasn't very attentive, just always playing his game. I communicated that I need affection and love from him, but talking to him was like talking to a wall. When we got married, things got worse. I became so resentful because all he would prioritize was his games, not paying attention to my needs. We tried to compromise on the gaming, but it never changed anything. I was just okay with the fact that I could trust him, and I truly thought he would never do this to me. We had our anniversary in February. He did so much for me that day. I felt so in love, and so cared for. But, then that love went away when he continued to play and prioritize his games. All of the resentment I built up, I tired to communicate with him about. Again, I was talking to a wall. So, of course, I started to say mean things. I said these things mostly because I wanted a reaction, or maybe a push. Maybe he would take my resentment seriously and start to prioritize my son and I? IDK. In the end I got no reaction. Long story short, he met a coworker, same age as him. He brought her over twice without my knowing, lied to me, over and over again. The second time she was over, I walked in and saw her. I kicked her out, and he got mad at me. He manhandled me just to get to her. I didn't let him leave though, and she ended up walking home and she blocked him. He didn't want to talk to me, so I just stayed at my mom's house, crying and throwing up. The next day, I drove over to him. He was sleeping fine in bed. I woke him up and just cried and cried. He just stared at me. I had to tell him that I needed a hug from him, and that's when he started to hug me. I stayed all day with him, showing what he had done to me. As the day was coming to an end, he told me he still wanted to be her friend. Wow. That made me angry. I made him swear he wouldn't talk to her again, and he swore he wouldn't. He did ask me for alone time so that he can think about us. So I left. I called him on the phone and we talked like we used to when we first met. I thought we had a chance. He sung me to sleep. The next day I called him and asked if he still needed a break. He said yes. I was totally fine with giving him a break, I just asked him not to ever see her. He said he wouldn't and he swore on it. I then asked him to screen share, and I see her number was unblocked. Turns out, the whole time I was talking about what I was going to do to fix my side of the relationship, he was texting her, begging to still be friends. Wow. I picked up all my stuff, and I'm going to file for divorce today. Also, he went out to eat with her yesterday. I'm so hurt, and he couldn't care less. Will he have any regret? He was a high school boyfriend who didn't turn out to be a good husband and father. Less than shocking. Stay single for a while and build your life with your kid. Don't jump into another relationship in a month. He was really the love of my life. The love of your life so far. There are far better, more trustworthy loves out there. He might regret his choice. If he does, please don't take him back. You deserve better and he will repeat this behavior. You lost me at, husband, 21M. No. He won't have any regrets anytime soon. Maybe years down the road when he grows up, but not anytime soon. How does a grown married man have time to play video games all day? You didn't help by deciding to use mean words directed at him to get his attention. You aren't going to like what I say next. Your prefrontal cortex becomes fully developed at 25. It regulates our emotions and thoughts and actions. You two got married too young. His lack of maturity really shows in his game playing, his girlfriend, and his lack of remorse. Get an attorney. You realize he lied to her, right? That's why she blocked him. He told her he was single and that you were broken up, or didn't even mention you. She's a victim too. The guy is trash and I'd be willing to bet is only with you and only married because he knocked you up and there was family pressure. Just cut your losses. He's shopping around for your replacement and things are only going to get worse. You can't guilt him into being a better person.